Welcome to the Digital Pathfinders podcast, where we guide professionals through career transitions, content creation, and building new income streams online. I'm your co host, Danny, joined by my co host, Antonio. How's it going, Antonio?
Hey, Danny, great to be back. We're already on to episode 4 for the Digital Pathfinders podcast. Ready to jump right in.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that we've been doing over the past, week and a half, 2 weeks since we had our last podcast. I want to hear what you've been up to, man. You've had some traveling. You've been working at Nas. There's some exciting things going on your end. Let's catch up.
Yes, so I took advantage of having a fully remote job, which is what Nas offers. It's one of the most exciting opportunities I've had because it is such a global organization. So they have an office in Dubai, an office in Singapore, but they have employees, contractors, freelancers scattered throughout the world. And so when these video productions come together, it's amazing how many people from all over the world had a little bit of this or a little bit of that kind of input that goes into each project or product or deliverable, etc. And as a result, they don't care where I work from. I mean, they might ask because of the background of my camera changes, like, hey, where are you at? And so I took advantage of this opportunity to go to Medellin. I live in Colombia, as you know, to kind of check in on my apartment that I've had rented out for the past couple of years. And I was fearing that there was going to be some serious damage and so forth. But after having it painted recently, I did all of the maintenance on electrodomestics and things of that nature. And just some odds and ends. It was really nice, and I thoroughly enjoyed Medellin. It's changed so much since I've been gone. A lot of digital
How long you been
nomads.
gone?
I think the last time I was there last year, not that long ago, but it was for a quick trip. What I mean to say though is all these new constructions going up, these multi-million dollar apartment buildings going up. So like every floor on some of these apartments are the entire floor. Talking about $1 million plus to buy an apartment in Colombia, unheard of. And it's the cat's out of the bag with regard to Medellin, and people are flocking to it. They're coming by the droves. And so in a part, we're sort of losing what Medellin used to be, and it's become sort of this almost global digital nomad hub.
Mhm. Yeah, but you're in Barranquilla, right? Big city. It has a lot of value culturally, and the weather's a little rough. The weather's a little rough out there. Very tropical, very hot and humid. But I like it. I like it. My wife is from out there. I love the people. I love the food. And I think that if I was living the dream, like you're living the dream, right? Being able to work remotely from anywhere in the world, I think that that would be a serious consideration for me. It's not America, right? You still have issues with electricity and water being available at all times. Sometimes Wi-Fi can be spotty. I think that they've made a lot of improvements, right? Security is another issue that I worry about, but there's a lot that Colombia has to offer. There's a lot that Colombia has to offer for digital nomads, for expats, not just Americans, but from all over the world. I've met a very diverse set of people out there that are out there taking advantage of Carnaval or, being able to take advantage of those prices out there. Colombia has gone up. I was married almost 14 years ago, and the price that I was paying for, an arepa, a hotel, car rental, right? Just everything in general has gone up. At the time that I first went out there to Colombia, the exchange rate was 1,700 Colombian pesos for $1. Where's it at now?
It's over 4,000. I have
Wow.
to check exactly.
Yeah.
It's really fluctuated quite a bit, as has Bitcoin. If you've seen any of that going on, and so
I've made a couple of bucks. I've made a couple of
you
bucks
know how
in the
they
last
used
one.
to say about Mexico is like when the U.S. sneezes, Mexico catches a cold. I think it's all of Latin America, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And so $1 today is already at 4,400 pesos. So
Wow.
that's one of the benefits of working remotely, globally speaking. If you're able to get compensated in either U.S. dollars, euros, or other kind of stronger currencies, and play that currency arbitrage, you can really maximize your spending opportunities here in Colombia. So there are some benefits I wanted to touch on briefly. Have you heard of Rappi?
No, I haven't.
Rappi was actually one of the very first, I think the first ever unicorn from Latin America. A unicorn is basically a company that's acquired $1 million in funding. And so this guy got the idea of having these rapitenderos, these domiciliarios, these guys delivering goods by.
Yes. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about now. They have those big boxes tied to them.
Yes,
I've seen them on horses when I was out there.
horses.
Yeah, there's a video on TikTok. Look it up.
That
Yeah.
might be an urban myth as far as like widespread use of horses. But yeah, no, I mean, it's basically like my friend from Montreal, Joel, likes to say, drive a BMW or have a BMW, bike, metro, walk. And so these guys, they have motorcycles, they have bicycles with lawnmower engines on them. I've seen guys on skateboards,
They get real
scooters.
creative out there in
They
Colombia.
do. They do. And so while Uber Eats exists here in Colombia and in the US, and you have like DoorDash and things of that nature, Rappi, you can literally order anything you can possibly think of, and it's for pennies on the dollar. I'm not sure how much delivery costs in the US. I'm sure there's a premium price associated with it,
Yeah.
but in Colombia, it's dirt cheap. So there are some benefits as far
Right.
as the lifestyle that you can have. If you can earn a good income and live in Colombia, it's almost like, Colombia is your oyster. But if you're, the average Colombian struggling to make it get by, it can be a very, very difficult existence,
Yeah.
and it's just night and day. And one thing I don't like about the expat community, the digital nomads, sometimes in El Poblado particularly, is they live in a bubble, right? And
Yeah.
so they don't really integrate into local society. And so for me, I didn't really, I didn't come to Latin America to associate with a lot of these digital nomads that come to Colombia. And that's not to say they're bad people or anything like that, but it's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah. The culture's super rich out there. My wife is from Barrio San Francisco, which is next to El Prado, and there's a lot of stuff going down out there. But that's in the middle of Barranquilla, very traditional type neighborhood out there.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I noticed out there is the concept of work is very, very different than what we have over here. I think here in the United States, um, I have to constantly be thinking about where I'm making my income. My identity is tied to my work, and it has been historically since I started working in the late '90s, early 2000s. In Barranquilla, they almost look at it completely backwards, right? They live in order to have the most happiness by how what is the least amount of effort that I need to do to live that happiness, right? It's very
Well, do you work to live or do you live to work? And I would say that in the U.S., people, they live to work,
yeah,
and here it's more like they work to live. So there's a clear distinction of when it's time to, get off of work. Just today, in fact, my car's in the shop, and so I went to go and pick up the replacement vehicle that I get from my insurance company, and so I reserved it on WhatsApp. That, yeah, you can pick it up 8 a.m. on Saturday. I'm like, great. So I go to the mall where they have this little office, and I get there 8 o'clock, right on the dot. Being an American, I've never lost that habit of being on time. And the guy's
I
like,
know what's about to
and the
happen.
guy's like looking at his watch. He's like, "Well, we don't open until 8:30." I was like, "Well, I don't know. The reservation says 8 o'clock." So I showed him the reservation. He's like, "I don't know why they do this." And I think the vibe I got was that they were open. I mean, the door was open, right? I just think
Uh,
that he didn't want to have to work so early, and so I was able to sweet talk him, smooth him over, and so it worked out in the end. But it
yeah,
was such a convoluted process. I mean, I got there 8 o'clock, trying to make the gym at 9 o'clock. I literally left at 8:50, so like 50 minutes to get a rental car, to pick up a rental car that you've already previously reserved. And I don't know if this phenomenon is taking place in the US, but I get the sense that they're pushing so much work onto the consumer, onto the customer. For example, you have to like register yourself, you have to do the payment process online, you have to do the selfie of yourself, you have to do all the acceptance, everything on your mobile phone. It's not like there's a little
mhm,
tablet where the guy's keying it in there. He's like, "Hey, sign with your finger." Like, no, no, no. You have to do literally everything with your own phone, and it still took 50 minutes.
yeah,
And so that was very frustrating. But because I was traveling in Medellin, my girlfriend's sister, she dropped my car off at the mechanic, and so they gave her a sheet that basically said, "Hey, your car's being worked on." I didn't have that sheet because I hadn't seen her yet, and so the guy's like, "Yeah, so where's your document stating your car's in the garage?" Like, oh. But the guy did me a solid. He's like, "Look, I'm going to allow you to take the rental car, but you need to get that document to me as quickly as possible." And he took a photo of it. So I was able to get the photo sent to him, everything squared away. but you're able to kind of like bend the rules here a little bit in Colombia. So there's it's just a totally different existence. You have to find your balance of what's important to you. So efficiency goes out the window. But to your earlier point, I mean, your wife's Colombian. You know, you've been here a few times, so you know what it's all about, right? There's like
Right.
happiness. There's like the I like to say in Spanish, the calor humano, just
Yeah.
the human warmth you get from people that's so oftentimes absent in the U.S.
And they are nothing. I'm not talking bad about their work ethic, porque se las inventan, right? For example, I saw people moving on a moped, right? Like moving their apartments, right?
Like furniture,
Furniture, right? This guy,
like a dresser on the guy's back.
no, this guy had like boxes all over him. His wife was rear facing, right? And there was a
Yeah,
box in between them. She
yeah.
had a dolly, un diablito, with a
Mhm.
refrigerator on it. And they were like, and I'm not exaggerating, bro. I'm not
Yeah, they get
exaggerating.
super creative here. They get super creative,
Yeah,
and it's understandable. I mean, having a car in the U.S., it's one of those things that you just take it for granted. Now, granted, in the U.S., everyone is in debt up to here, but in Colombia, it's not like that because you really can't get into debt in the same way. Where like you don't have this notion of being writing things off, bankruptcy. You're on the hook
yeah,
basically. Whereas in the U.S., you can kind of finagle your way out. And so it's a different existence. So for many people, having a car is just an unrealizable luxury they're never going to have.
yeah,
And so they have to make do with what they have. And
yeah,
so for many people, that means having a moped, having a bike, a scooter with the entire family on it,
yeah,
right? Not
yeah,
just going to the store, but to your point, doing a full move of an apartment.
yeah. My wife's family, so it's a multi generational family. And when I met her, it was grandmother, two uncles, her mother, her aunt, her, and two cousins living in one house, and none of them had a car. So out there, public transportation was what they did, and taxis were their primary mode of transportation, and buses, and they had metro at the time, not like we think of metro, but yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we would do puerta a puerta when we wanted to go to like Santa Marta or Cartagena, where
Hmm.
a little van would show up, pick you up at your door, and drop you off wherever you wanted to. You just give them an address, and they do that door to door service,
Mm,
and it was super, super affordable. So,
mm.
yeah, definitely different. There's some advantages to being an expat living in other countries, and I see the appeal. I see the appeal, right? There's some drawbacks. Like I said, the United States is super secure. I can go anywhere in the United States, wear a watch, have $1,000 phone, be speaking on it, not have to worry about um, being secure anywhere. And anywhere that you travel, that you look out of place or as a tourist, but in Colombia, you just can't take your security for granted. And I think that that might have something to do with the fact that you were talking about some of these digital nomads really living in a bubble, really living in a bubble. Because if you're going to go in and go to Los Fruteros or go to the beach and somewhere like El Rodadero in Santa Marta, things like that, like you're going to be in the middle of culture. You're going to be in the middle of culture. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that no digital nomads ever never branch out, but I just mean to say that it's not enough to experience, cultural events sort of piecemeal, if you will. You're not going to learn the language if you're not going to try to establish yourself. But if you just come here for say 6 months out of the year, you set up your Airbnb where you're getting paid in the U.S. dollars, you're getting paid in the U.S. in U.S. dollars. It's like you're almost like taking advantage of the country without really giving back enough. Like, what are you truly giving back to the company, to the country?
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a friend. He's got a cell phone shop. He sells new and used Apple products, predominantly iPhones, and he's been able to create a company with. He's got probably like 10 to 15 people. So he's created jobs. He's been here for a number of years, 7 to 8 years, and I really admire that. I mean, he's totally integrated into society. He's got a lot of Venezuelan contacts, a lot of Venezuelan employees. My point is that he's really integrated into society versus these other nomads that come here for, like I said, 6 months out of the year, and they never even get their cedula. They're just here on a tourist visa, essentially. And it's just a different experience altogether.
Yeah, yeah. Experiencing junior or junior's the city's soccer team or the national team plays
Mm.
in Barranquilla at the stadium there. And if you go to Barranquilla and you don't experience that type of of excitement, you're missing out, right? The city shuts down if either one of those teams is playing, and if they
Yep.
win, nobody goes to work the next day. Right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoyed when I was out there during the World Cup in when it was in South Africa, and we went to an Olympica, which is like a Walgreens, right? And they
Hmm.
had TVs facing out, and we showed up because we were going to watch the game. We picked up some drinks, and I thought we were leaving to go watch the game. And we watched the game literally with 1,000 people hanging out in the parking lot, and then food vendors started coming in. Grupo de Millo showed up playing music, and we're watching the game, having a good time. And then the cops show up, and I was like, oh man, the party's getting broken up. And they looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, they're here to watch the game, you know? And so we had an excellent time. And if you're not being part of that, right? If you're not integrating yourself into society, like you said, you're the only thing that you're doing is taking advantage of the fact that your dollar stretches a heck of a lot more in Colombia than it does in the United States, man. And you're missing out. One
But
thing
yeah.
that one thing that I notice when I travel abroad is that as Americans, we're not very international. We're not very international at all. The United States is so big, you can travel all over the place and still feel like you had a culturally diverse experience. But, you know, people in Barranquilla, people in Colombia, you know, they interact with people from Venezuela. They travel outside of the country. They study outside of the country. Um, yeah, it's very different, very different.
So I wanted to shift gears.
Yeah.
One of the words we were talking about maybe before we recorded, and even now talking about Uber a little bit, is I wanted to kind of kick things off with this money challenge that Nas Daily is hosting as part of their Nas.io
Hmm.
mobile platform in conjunction with eToro, the
Yeah.
largest online trading platform in the world, I believe.
Hmm.
And even though I had seen the money challenge communications going out before I joined Nas Company as an employee, I didn't have time to maybe pursue it. Or I didn't necessarily see the angle of it. But now that I have jumped in working on it behind the scenes, one of the first tasks I had to do, or one of the many tasks rather I had to do, was they basically Nas Daily is all about content repurposing. Repurposing means doing content, the production value once, but cutting it up, splicing it, slicing and dicing, and getting it across all the different platforms.
Hmm.
I can't think of the terminology at the top of my head, but there's this term where they actually do the translation as well. I think it's called localization. Localization. So making sure that the same content gets pushed out to the multiple channels. So I follow Nas Daily in Spanish and Espanol, right? So there's a person that is responsible for translating and getting that text like voiced over, or probably using AI. I haven't asked that question yet. But in addition to that kind of repurposing, they also take the long form video. So for the money challenge, there's one monthly video. The first month to kick off the challenge was a very kind of short, longer term video. Long form video is like 2.5 minutes. Subsequent videos have been like between 6 to 11 minutes. And then they are able to take that longer form video that's posted to YouTube and Facebook, cut it way down, 59 seconds, so that it hits YouTube Shorts. And it's been amazing to me, just that notion of like being able to communicate, not obviously in the same level of detail, but the same topic going from, say, horizontal format to vertical format, long form to short form. How do you do it? Well, that's what I was tasked with as far as the most recent video about real estate. Hit pause. I'm actually hearing your phone in the background. Is it going on? There's like some buzzing.
Oh no, I was getting water.
No, no, no. But there's been like several like beeps, maybe. I don't know. Like there's like some vibrations.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, so going back to the money challenge. So every month they have the new topic. So the very first topic was talking about cash, and they talked about stocks, they talked about crypto, and the most recent video was about real estate. And so if you watch these videos, Nasir, the founder of Nas Company, is the one speaking directly to the camera, but there is some voiceover. And so what they predominantly try to do with regard to uh, the repurposing is taking all the shots where he's speaking on camera and using voiceovers where necessary, because even in the long form video, he's not always on camera, and then dwindling that key message down from, say, 10 minutes down to 1 minute. How do you go about doing that? That's a really good exercise into this notion of repurposing. And so when you do that, sometimes you're missing a little bit of like these connected words, or you need to have like rephrased in a more
Mhm.
simple fashion because of the time constraint. And so in those instances, we'll do voiceover. But in most instances, you're able to take these little snippets of him speaking on camera, cut, I wouldn't call it the fluff, but just getting down to the boiling the 10-minute video down to the bare essentials and producing 1 minute video. So that's what I worked on this past week, is getting an 11-minute video on real estate, cut way down to 1 minute.
So how do you go about the process? What's the because I know we were using ChatGPT before. We were feeding it, transcript that was half an hour, 45 minutes long, and try to get some hot takes out of that.
So due to the time zone difference and its significance, 13 hours between Eastern Standard Time and Singapore. 13 hours is a significant difference. So basically, while I'm working, my boss is sleeping, and vice versa. And so before she was going to bed, we spoke her evening hours, my morning hours. She's like, "Hey, I'd love for you to take a stab at trying to create a script based off the longer form." And so I was like, "Okay." So in my mind, what I was going to do is look at the prior versions done. What did I do? So one of the gals at Nas, she's like, "Well, there's this application called Mac Whisperer or Apple Whisperer, and that's basically this transcription app that you can pay for annually or a one-time fee. It's like $80 to buy it for a lifetime." I was like, "Well, I'm just going to use Descript." So I basically, what's great about Descript is when it's on YouTube, you can literally copy the URL, paste the URL into Descript, and create a video project with the auto transcription. And so then what I did is I downloaded the transcription for both the long form and the short form, created two columns. The left column was the long form, the right column was the short form column, and I just kind of mapped it out. And then I had ChatGPT support me, saying, "All right, ChatGPT, create this table and show me where all of the short form sentences." So he speaks at a very slow pace of about 2 words per second. So he wants his parents to be able to understand his English. They're non-native speakers. Actually, I have very limited English, is my understanding. I speak about 3 words per second. And so in a 60-second video, we're talking about 120 words. So distilling a longer message down to 120 words is a combination of art and science. So I had both transcripts. I had asked ChatGPT. I was like, "Hey, can you basically line up these scripts and just show me where the short form line verbatim was taken from the longer form script?" So I did that for each of the 4 videos. For video number 5, I was trying to identify, to me, what were the most important parts. So when I told my boss, I was like, "Hey, I'm starting on the script," she's like, "Well, hold on, someone's already done that." And it was the COO. She sent me the script, but it wasn't verbatim. It was like a very well written script, but it was not verbatim. And if it's not verbatim, what does that mean? You either have to reshoot the whole video or do voiceover, and that's not the goal. So what my boss asked me to do, she's like, "Well, take the script that was given to you by the COO and link it back to the original long form script." And that's what I did. I basically said, "All right, ChatGPT, here's like the proposed script. Now let's compare it to the actual long form scripts and highlight those lines." And I grabbed all those lines, lined it up, and then had the short form script based off of that. And so it's like
What
finding a
feedback?
needle in a haystack.
Yeah, what feedback did you get from them?
So she thought there was some opportunities for improvement as far as when you try to connect, when you edit things down, you don't want it to seem too choppy. So when it gets to that point, there are these points where you need to identify and say, "Hey, look, for this sentence to make sense, we need Nasir to do a voiceover where he's going to basically provide a linking sentence to this particular on-screen sentence, and then another voiceover to lead into the next topic." Or this sentence is just too long. We need to have him do a voiceover to shorten it and condense the message down to simplify it. And so overall, I think she was impressed. I think she definitely was surprised I was able to kind of just grasp it. And I think that's for you personally with the script writing. I'd like to hear about your script writing progress in this challenge for the become a star producer, because script writing is fundamental when it comes to content creation.
Yeah, the script writing challenge has been really good. I think that it's probably the least labor intensive, and I'm pretty good at writing, so it's
Are
been
you
nice.
staying on pace?
Oh yeah, I'm staying on pace. I haven't done today's challenge, but I'll go ahead and do it.
What are
And
the
I
challenges? Like what are the daily challenges?
So the first few, this is day number 6 or 7, and I've only needed to write one script so far. But really, the first couple of days were really about figuring out those the pace and the structure of what these 1 minute scripts look like. Uh, and then they had us for 2 days, 3 days. Person, place, and thing that we would identify a subject, um, write an impactful title, and then why this would make a good story, right? And so we did that for 3 different days, and then they gave us a CEO
So
to
you had
kind
to
of,
find your own. You had to find your own topic.
yeah, yeah. We had to find 5 topics for each, and so um, yesterday was our first time that we had to do a full script. So that's what we did yesterday, and they gave
How
us one
long?
CEO, 1 minute, so about 150 words.
Hmm.
That's what they wanted us to do. I think I came in at like 142.
That's
Um,
fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Chat GPT is great for writing scripts. It doesn't pump out a perfect script or a script that you're not going to need to edit, but one of the things that it does is it structures everything in a way that you can kind of break it down line by line. And you made a comment that was really enlightening prior to me starting this challenge. You said that Nas records one sentence at a time, right? And then it's all gets put together. And when I thought about that, that's kind of how I approached this script writing, right? Title, impactful, hook, needs to catch people's attention. Really talk about what the issue at hand is, what the outcome, and then write a cohesive conclusion and then a hook at the end, right? And
Hmm.
150 characters isn't very much to get all that stuff in there, but throughout the challenges that we've been doing, it really put me in the right mindset to kind of execute. I think a lot of the people that are in the challenge aren't doing as well as I am, but there's a couple of people out there that do really really well. There's a
How
few
many
things.
live sessions are you going to have?
One live session and then the closing party. There wasn't even a live session to kick off.
Oh
So
wow! So I think they've recognized it. 'Cause it's a lot of work. I mean, the thing
mhm.
is, what I've seen at Nas Company is that everyone's incredibly busy. They run I wouldn't say a skeleton crew, but it's pretty slim. And so I know people like my boss. She is super busy. One guy went on paternity leave. Another gal recently left the organization. So it's been like me having to assume a lot of these different tasks, and I'm trying to keep up, trying to keep my head above the water. On Monday, I have my first session with HR and my direct supervisor. This 1 month feedback session. I have a 3 month trial. So basically, Monday, well, actually, today is a 1 month anniversary, basically, since I started. So Monday is the first day where I do the feedback session.
How many
But
hours a week are you working?
whew, um, I'm working literally like from 6 a.m. until probably like 8 p.m. And I do take a little bit of breaks for some food, but it's like it's been just cranking nonstop, bro.
And are you still finding time to do your own content?
No, that's one of the things I want to get back on the wagon, if you will, is getting back to my own content. So I'm very excited to be starting Courtney Johnson's LinkedIn cohort
When are you
because I think
starting
that's
that?
gonna be in January.
In
I don't remember the
January.
exact date, but early January. But I highly recommend her Patreon account because I was listening to her recent Patreon account and she talked about this notion of having these 5 things that you commit to on a daily basis, right? And it's so true. Like you have to have on a daily basis. What's like? Well, first of all, what is the one thing? She's like she talked about defining like what is your one thing. There's a book about this, but she's
Right, I
like,
have it. I have it. Yeah.
yeah, like what is the one thing you're focused on, right? And so for her, and it's changed every year for her, but recently it's been like making sure I post every single day on LinkedIn for an entire year. Like that was her one thing, right? And then you have this notion of what are the 5 what's that word? just must do's on a daily basis. And the example she gave was like exercise. And I really agree with this because I've been working so much. I've actually reduced my time going to the gym. But she's like, you don't have to, if you're used to going to the gym for an hour, but you're super busy, whatever, just do 5 push-ups and that's it. And I've been in this mode where like if it's either all or nothing, right? Where I'll just, I'm gonna take the day off. I'm tired, but I can still go for a quick walk. I can still do 10 jumping jacks, right? Things of that nature. So I really have enjoyed her Patreon account, which is it's a paid account, like $10 a month. So I'm really excited about getting back to that because I did my most recent video I did. I'm not sure if you saw it on the Underwood deviled ham, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw that.
I focused on the Diablitos version, how basically it came to exist in Venezuela, and I really enjoyed that. And so I really want to get into doing a series on founders. I'm actually doing a deep dive into GoPro as a potential client for Nas. I probably shouldn't release this on air, but I've done a super deep dive on GoPro because GoPro, industry leader in action cameras. But what's interesting about GoPro is that about 95% of their content is done via UGC. And they are farming out the vast majority of their content for pennies on the dollar. What do I mean by that? They're not paying these creators. They do very few creator campaigns, but they have this annual awards program, $1 million they give out. A lot of people submit. There's like 20 winners. No, sorry, 50 winners that each get like 20 grand. And they have these other throughout the year, these different challenges. You can upload pictures and videos, but they're not really creating their own content. And
So
the
they're
content
getting
they're giving,
tons of content for free.
yeah, because they've got over
That's
50
genius.
million followers
That is
across their
genius.
platforms, right? But what's the problem that I see with their content? It's extremely exhilarating to watch. I mean, it's phenomenal. These guys have cameras attached to everything from bikes to animals to boats, underwater, you name it. It's been done. But there's no voice narration. There's no storytelling for the vast majority of these videos. The vast majority of them. Some do. The vast majority do not. And so we're seeing this rise in competition from other players that have cheaper cameras, that they're easier to mount, they're slimmer, they pop off, this and that. And I was doing some financial analysis on GoPro. They are now 7 consecutive quarters in the red, losing millions upon millions of dollars. This is a company that's doing like $1 billion a year in annual sales, but they're running deep in the red. So, like, how long can they run in the red? And so I was looking at year over year comparison of how many followers they had at the end of 2022 versus 2023. They grew from 40 million to 50 million in 1 year. How do you get 25% growth in your followers and not be profitable? I posit they're not engaging enough directly with their followers, right? They need to basically do something entirely different. I think they need to do storytelling, for example, as well with their content. And lastly, I also looked at who they're following on Instagram. They've got 20 million followers on Instagram, yet they're following only 333 accounts. So I did a copy paste. I didn't get a chance to go through every single person they're following, rather. But they follow ski resorts, they follow extreme athletes, they follow some foundations, they follow this one husky, a pet, a dog, I forget his name. I'm like, they could really leverage these people because these are basically content creators in their own right. And so there's a lot of opportunities. I've just really enjoyed my analysis, but it's almost been my Achilles heel because the deep dive analysis isn't for me creating enough creative ideas. And so that's really been my biggest, I think, hurdle to get past is like leave the analytical side over here and work on the creative side. And so that's been my biggest challenge so far.
That's really, really surprising that they've been in the red that long for a couple of reasons. Industry leader, and they took over uh, an actual segment of language. So you don't say helmet mounted camera. You say GoPro. It doesn't matter what type of camera you're using. If you have a helmet mounted camera, you have it's a GoPro. Like Xerox, right? You say, "Oh, I'm going to Xerox these documents," and everybody knows that you're making copies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're as you're explaining this whole thing about them having almost unlimited amount of free content, uh, you would expect that these guys would just be, not in the red, not in the red,
Well,
not in the
I
red.
think I think they're not. in your face enough to basically have these call to actions. Basically, buy our camera, buy our product.
Right.
Right. At the end of the day, it's almost providing free entertainment for the masses. Right. We're not paying Instagram to be able to watch their videos. We're not paying YouTube. We're not paying Facebook. We're not paying TikTok. We're not paying anybody. They've got millions of followers, millions of people devouring this content, other thousands of people giving them free content. But I think they need to evolve with the time. They've been an industry leader for too long to be in this position. But I want to start doing this series, going back to your question about personal content. I'm not sure if you saw recently, I reposted on LinkedIn the CEO of UGC Ninja, this guy, Andrew, I forget his last name, I think it's Shebit. He did a 14-second short form video talking about the Think Different campaign by Apple. I was totally blown away of how you can do a 14-second short form video that packs in so much information by the script as well as the actual footage that was included in the editing. And so that's what I the angle I was going for with the Diablitos, the deviled ham,
Hmm.
that's now a huge product in Venezuela. So one of the suggestions I was giving to my team about this guy is like, look, this is the 20-year anniversary of GoPro. What's the founder's story? How did this product come into existence? Turns out this guy, I think he's Australian, former surfer. He literally, with the rubber band, put a camera on his phone while he was surfing. Like that was the notion, right? That was how he came up with the idea. So I want to do a video on founders and just tell that story. I think GoPro should definitely tell that story. If you look at founder's story, like what's the origin story of GoPro in YouTube, you'll see video clips that include him being interviewed on TV, but there's no story. I think people would love to know the evolution of GoPro told directly from the CEO himself. Like, look, guys, we've come a long way from my garage and wherever in Australia where I would strap this camera to my hand with a rubber band to now having the preeminent hero camera. They have all these different lenses. You can do some incredible things with them. They're missing a huge opportunity to explain that. You
You could
cannot just
have
rely on this UPC content. And sure, it's like super exciting to watch this guy on a mountain bike going down the Dolomites, and it's like super exhilarating. But does that really make me buy the GoPro? Do I associate what he's doing with GoPro? I just associate him just doing some crazy stuff, right? But there needs to be more in your face. Like, look, we will teach you how to get this kind of footage. That's another challenge. They have their own editing app called GoPro Quick Edit, and it has all these templates. It has all these different effects like slow mo, speed up, frames, filters. But it really steers you in that direction of like voiceless content. You can add music. There's no notion. There's no alert. There's no prompt to say, "Hey, do a voiceover. Tell the audience what you're doing." So I've just seen so many opportunities examining this industry-leading company, $1 billion a year company that's struggling not only with their sales, but I think with their content, their marketing strategy in general. I think that's just been the
and they're sitting
biggest
on a
struggle.
gold mine, right? As
Yeah.
you're talking about the founder, for 20 years later, I would love to see him, put a little GoPro, looking at himself on the tip of a surfboard, and rubber banding a phone, to his hand, and doing some surfing, and talking about, how this was the beginning of it all, the
Well, I
beginning
just
of it
saw a
all.
recent video of this guy. I'm not sure if you're into Bitcoin at all, but this guy
Hmm.
was doing a video of Bitcoin. He was like in his office showing a computer screen to the side. He's like, I can't believe it. Bitcoin hit, it was either $1 or like $11. And he was just like totally blown away because it had been in the 0.000001 when it first launched. And it was slowly creeping up to a penny. Then it slowly crept up to $1. Then it got to $11 and $100 and $1,000 and $10,000. And that's when I really started like watching this. I was like,
It's at a
holy stuff.
hundred thousand dollars right now.
Yeah, now it's at $100,000. So what they did is the same guy did the same video, same setup. He's like, I cannot believe Bitcoin has hit $100,000. So as we were speaking just now, it would be great to have that founder story where the CEO, I just looked him up. I think it's Nick Woodman. If he were to do a side by side of himself, literally kind of doing a retro recording of himself with the old school camera, rubber band on his hand, doing some surfing, and then now with the hero camera from GoPro side by side, I think that would be a phenomenal video, right? A
Yeah,
phenomenal
yeah.
video. And so that was the other thing I wanted to mention, but I'll let you jump in with some thoughts here. I don't want to dominate the conversation here.
No, no, I'm intrigued. I want to listen.
No, I was just going to say that, with ChatGPT, it's a phenomenal tool, but don't ignore Claude. Claude.ai is really creative. So, for example, we have to come up with these story titles, right? And I feel like when you talk with Claude, it understands you better. It's able to give you much better examples, saying, "Look, I want a Nas Daily style title that runs anywhere from 5 to 7 words, 8 max, no what do you call that? Punctuation other than maybe a comma or no, not even a comma, maybe an exclamation point rather, a comma or exclamation point, but no hyphens, no colons, no semicolons, no period." And say, "Look, I want this to be outlandish. I want this to be like WTF, like super wow, like out of this world. Think outside the box," and it comes back with some amazing titles for your videos. Because when you actually lead with a title, that really gets the creative juices flowing. For me, at least.
Hmm. Yeah. How
So
much is
for
Claude? You,
you,
you pay for Claude, right?
you don't have to pay for Claude. I do pay for Claude because actually I'm a heavy AI user. I use probably too much in this new role, but they've been very supportive tools. I mean, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude have been my go-to tools. Absolutely.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'll check out Claude. I'll check out Claude
Yeah.
because I started using ChatGPT from the moment they were launched, and as soon as you could pay for it, I did. So that's basically what I use as far as a language model. You know?
Well, actually, walk us through your experience creating a GPT because I want to talk about that on today's call. Is creating a GPT that's going to focus on how to find hot takes. I sent you a clip by Courtney Johnson today on LinkedIn where
Mhm.
she talks about Riverside, and they have a particular function within Riverside that helps her find these hot takes. It's similar to Opus Clips, but it has a different name. I'll find it out now. But Tim, take us through your experience creating your first GPT. What was it? What did it do? What's your perspective on that?
So what ended up happening was that we had talked about this idea of separate GPTs that are built within ChatGPT. Uh, I didn't even realize you could do that until we took the AI challenge, and Daniel, one of the challenge masters, showed us that he has a GPT built just for LinkedIn. So with the script writing challenge, I was like, you know what? I bet you somebody from Nas Daily has done a GPT, and I looked it
Oh,
up,
sure.
and there is a Nas Daily. I can't remember his title, but he is basically a script writer for Nas Travel. And so I started playing with it, and it started pumping out a lot of really, really great answers to the prompts that I was giving it. But I noticed that there was some things that it was lacking. I don't know how long ago they did that GPT, but as I'm getting instructions for the daily task on this challenge, I have this list of things that I'm putting into prompts over and over and over again.
Hmm.
So I was like, you know what? Why don't I take these requirements for all these tasks and I put them into a GPT, right? So I
Well, break
started.
that down. What explain like first of all, like how did you even go about that? Like where do you go in
So
ChatGPT?
on ChatGPT, if you go to Chat, I'm going to pull up ChatGPT right now. So if you go to ChatGPT, right?
You can
Um,
share your screen if you want.
yeah. So let me see here. Let me see here. How do you share your screen? Start. There it is. Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second as I pull it up. All
It's
right.
called Magic Clips within Riverside FM. I'm actually looking in Perplexity where you're pulling that up. It says Riverside FM features a tool called Magic Clips, which utilizes AI technology to automatically generate short clips from longer clips. So there's something in
Yeah.
Descript as well. It's not quite as good, but I think to this point, that's what I was hoping we can get at today. Is like, first of all, talk about your experience with a GPT, and to your earlier comment we were chatting about before we recorded, is creating a GPT to help us find these hot takes.
Yeah. So here, let me start screen sharing right now. So this is ChatGPT right here. Everybody's pretty familiar with it, but you see all these GPTs over here. I did one. It's called the Grateful Pen. It's my writing style. This is the Nas Travel GPT that somebody from Nas Company created, and this is the one that I created here, the Epic Storyteller. So here is the way that I
Can you
describe
read
it.
that description? Can you read that description out loud? It's too small
Yeah,
on my screen.
epic Storycrafter helps you create viral 1 minute Nas daily style scripts with epic hooks, simple language, seamless flow, and universal appeal. Perfect for storytellers and creators, it turns ideas into concise, engaging scripts that captivate audiences and leave a lasting impact. And then down here, I put four like conversation starters, right? The first one, tell me a powerful story that will resonate with a global audience. What's the main idea or unique perspective that you want the world to understand, right? And then you just touch that, and it pumps out all these things that it could write about. But I want to show you real quick the back end of it. Edit chat G. Okay, so no, that's not where I wanted to go. All right, here it is. Right. So when I go ahead and write it, I give it instructions.
Well, it
Right.
asks you. You're basically when you create a GPT, you have to provide the source data, right? That it's going to leverage. It's going to utilize,
Correct.
right? What did
Correct.
you upload for this GPT?
So I'm trying to. Here it is. So the name, the description I already read, and here's the instructions. Script a 1 minute video to tell a story of a person, place, or thing. Tell us who or what this is, why it's important, why it was created, or why it's an issue, and why the world should hear the story. Remember, a Nas Daily Scripts has all of the following qualities: simple language, logical flow between sentences, words like that's why, because, so, but, etc. are your best friends. Universal relevance should make sense to someone living 5,000 miles away from where I live, or you live. Short and to the point without any fluff or unnecessary details, organized and easy to read, with an epic hook and conclusion. Don't forget to give your script a catchy Nas Daily title. Create concise 1 minute scripts with the Nas Daily style. Focuses on telling stories of people, places, or things with universal relevance. Use simple language, logical flow, impactful hooks, and conclusions. Ensures each script inspires, educates, or entertains in a relatable way. Highlights why the story matters globally and why the audience should care. Concise and clear. Avoids unnecessary detail and keeps sentences short and easy to follow. Conversational and relatable, uses friendly, engaging tone as if speaking directly to the audience. Hook focus, starts with a strong hook and maintains curiosity throughout. Global perspective, makes every story accessible and meaningful to a worldwide audience. Optimized for impact, concludes with a takeaway or call to action that resonates emotionally or intellectually. Fluff and filler, no irrelevant details or long winded explanations. Complex jargon, avoid technical or niche language that might confuse a general audience.
Real quick,
Irrelevance.
let me just jump in there and ask you a
Yeah.
question. So, where did you get those instructions? How did you come up with those instructions?
Well, a number of places. Mostly the challenges that we've been taking. Mostly the challenges that we've been taking.
Did ChatGPT help you kind of modify that to create that, or is
Well,
that you
yeah.
create?
So what I've been doing with all these challenges is I've been saving since the AI challenge. I
Mhm.
started saving each and every single task, each and every single thing that I turned in. So I get all this information for the last few months, and I just dumped it all into ChatGPT. I just dumped it all into
Right. 'Cause
ChatGPT.
that leads to my next question. Because then you have the upload files. What did you upload? Did
Oh,
you upload any?
I didn't upload any files. What I did is I on just ChatGPT, not on a particular GPT, I dumped every single thing on there, and I gave it a
Right. What I'm
prompt.
saying is, but if this is for scripts, what you could do is uploading files. You could literally upload as many Nas Daily video scripts as you wanted, because that would basically alimentar. It would like feed into ChatGPT. So it not only does it have the framework and the guidance and the blinders on, but it has this whole plethora of a specific data set that it will draw on like before it
Hmm.
goes to the general internet search. And so I think your GPT is onto a great start. But I think if you were to add specific source files that would even make it even better.
All right, I'll play with that. I'll definitely play with that.
And one easy way to do that is to basically go into YouTube,
Mhm.
grab the link of YouTube, and you can literally paste that into the script. You don't have to upload a video or anything. You literally paste the URL into the script, create a new video project, it auto transcribes it, and then you can publish the transcripts and save all those transcripts into like one Word document, then convert it to a PDF. So you can literally have like one PDF document of like the top 100 Nas daily scripts. Upload that single PDF file into your Chat GPT, and then you've got like this Obra Maestra, this masterpiece GPT on how to write Nas daily scripts. That even speaking to you now, I want to do that with the titles, because the titles for me is like that's like the cornerstone of a good script. From an ideation perspective, it
Yeah,
just leads in the right direction.
yeah, yeah. I wish I knew somebody that worked at Nas that could tell me what the best videos, best performing videos were
Well,
out
if
there.
you go to YouTube, you go to YouTube and you can go to like the top. You go to
Oh
videos.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It filters by like recent, newest. I think like top or best or most. No, I think most popular. So if you go to like the most popular, I think it's filtered by number of views. So you
Okay.
can literally just copy and paste those titles and then go and search for each of those individual titles. But there's also playlists. I don't know if I don't know if on YouTube they've filtered the playlists by like best videos. I don't know. It's a good question, but
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Yeah, I'll definitely play with it. I dumped all that information into ChatGPT. I told ChatGPT to get me very specific instructions because I'm building my own GPT, and this is all the information that it shot out. And it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good, and I think it gives me a leg up on the
well, I'll tell
competition.
you, Danny. I mean, I'm impressed, man. Here's a guy that's never done any kind of content, and all of a sudden you're pumping out GPTs, man. I mean, you got to like slap yourself a little bit and say, "Hey, where am I at?" Right? Like,
Mm.
honestly, as a guy that I'm not saying you were not technical, but you've really gone in like just in just full dive into the deep end, right? You just went in for the plunge.
Yeah. Well, I had to get committed. I had to get committed. We've talked in the past about what happened with you, that you were kind of on the fence. You signed up for the Creator Accelerator program with Nas, and next thing you know, you're laid off. Right.
Yeah. I haven't
So
looked back since, man. I have not looked
yeah.
back. I have not even really considered ever going back to a traditional corporate job. And this Nas company, the DNA is anti-corporate, right? They
Yeah.
don't even email. They don't like formality. It's very much millennial Gen Z. I'm like the grandpa of the team. I don't even think people know how old I am, but I can say that by working with these young lads, these whippersnappers, as my dad would like to say, it's like an injection of energy and creativity and different perspective. Because a lot of the younger generations, they catch a lot of backlash and flack for maybe being lazy, if you will. But it's
Mhm.
not about being lazy. They just don't see the incentive of working at the same company for 40 years just to get a gold watch at the end of 40 years. They want to enjoy life now, right? So
Right.
the benefits of remote work, the benefits of working on really cool stuff, it's pretty exciting, man.
And talking about this younger generation, they do things differently, right? The world isn't what it used to be
Mm.
20 years ago, right? When we started entering the workforce right out of university.
Night and
And
day,
right,
night and day.
right. And sometimes I hear people talk about even younger, preteens and teens being constantly connected on their phone, or wasting time in on social media, or posting TikToks that are just dumb or irrelevant, right? I think OAC in Congress, when she first got elected, they started putting out all these videos that she had created, dancing around and just being kind of a kid overall, right?
Mm.
But you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like when I was a kid, my mother would say, "You need to not stand so close to the TV because you'll go blind."
Mm.
Right? You can't listen to that Walkman too long because you're gonna go deaf. You're gonna go deaf, right? This hip hop is going to make you into a criminal.
Rot your brain.
Right, right. They said the same thing about heavy metal. They said the same thing about Elvis when he was dancing, that it was going to, make the masses, these children promiscuous. I think that they are training. Uh, they are getting life skills that are going to be relevant to them, right?
Yeah, I
Look,
mean, their reality is they're never going to work a 9 to 5. To be honest,
yeah, yeah.
predominantly,
And I
and in
mean,
fact, the 9 to 5 is going away, right? So I think we have to recognize that we've got to keep up with the changing of the times, and things are happening at a rapid pace that people don't even realize, right? We're
mhm.
getting outpaced so quickly that we need to be doing this now, and if you don't, you're going to get left back.
Well, look where we're at, bro. Look what we're at. I feel like I'm behind the ball. I've been kind of on this mission since June. It's December now, so it's been half a year that I've been really trying to grasp how you go from a 9 to 5, from being in front of a desk, clocking in and clocking out, having somebody really manage your time and push you in the direction that they want you to go because of the company that you work for, into how do I make a living with these machines? How do
Yeah.
I stay relevant? And you've been doing it for 2 years, and look where you're at. I think that a lot of these people that are 12, 16, 20, 22, it's not even a concept that they think about. It's just the way that they do, right? When we were in high school, you were getting ready, you were putting applications, you were figuring out where you were going to study, what you were going to study, because even though it was fading, the concept of being successful meant going to college, finding a job that you were going to sit at for 5, 10, 20, 40 years in order to have a decent retirement later on down the road. And the more that I look at where our society is and is going, that is kind of going away. That is kind of going away. And
Yeah, pretty much. It's like gone away at this point. I think at this juncture, our age group and up, they're facing ageism and they're getting laid off and they don't have any recourse, right? And so I think the biggest learning point is look, if you don't have time because you're busy working your 9 to 5, you need to make time. That means late evenings, working on the weekends, reskilling, upskilling yourself. Because if you don't, you get laid off. What are you going to do? About my buddy, we were the Ecuadorian guy who's kind of at a loss. I was like, hey, I told him to check out this the Creator Accelerator program for professionals. He kind of was like not really interested in that, and that's fine. I mean, I totally get it, right? If the person hasn't seen the light, no matter what you say, you're kind of holding you're basically blowing you're holding your breath in a way, right? So it is what it is. But I think we're fortunate to have seen the light. I think we're fortunate to recognize that we've got to get with the times and stay ahead of the curve. And by jumping in, creating content, using AI, those are two of the best ways to create your personal brand, build marketable skills to make yourself valuable.
listen, I got another 20, maybe 30 years in the workforce, right? I'm middle aged, and I don't want to be in the position that I was in last year, knowing that my job was going to be eliminated and that my time at a company was going to be, coming to an end. Same thing with you. I think that yours was a lot more abrupt when you were working for Pfizer. But what would happen to me if I was 60, 65, and still needed that income? How many
Well,
people, how many baby boomers right now don't have the means for a
welcome to
comfortable
Walmart. How
retirement?
may I help you? You know, what size
Exactly.
frappuccino do you, what size frappuccino do you want?
You know,
Unfortunately, that's the reality.
and nothing against Starbucks or Walmart. I think that they have a great place in the world. But as somebody that has a master's degree, uh, and a ton of experience that's relevant, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be in that position again, whether it's, at my age right now or, when I'm 60, 70, man.
Yeah, you have
I,
to take ownership of your career, and by basically studying and going deep into these topics, that's really the only way that you can do it. I mean,
yeah,
you can't read about podcasts. You've got to create one yourself. You've got to do it. You don't have to go as formal as we've done it. You could literally record on your phone and not even do a full out podcast. Just post it online.
mhm,
You could literally just post short clips and never even post a long form. So
mhm,
there really is no excuse, right? The barriers to entry have come way down. Gary Vee's published books, but like basically it's a how-to guide. It's practically like how to create content for dummies. Practically, there's just no excuse. But Danny, I think we should start winding things up
yeah,
because we're right at the hour mark here.
yeah,
So I'm not sure if we covered everything we wanted to get on, but I think getting back to the weekly scheduling is going to be great.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
sure where. where are we taking our listeners and viewers in the coming weeks, Danny?
What I want to really throw out there for our listeners and viewers is that I don't want you to be in the same position that Antonio and I were at when these companies that we had spent years at decided that we were, for a lack of a better word, expendable. And then you're sitting at a place that you don't know where you're going to feed your family. You don't know where your career is going. You don't know where to start as far as looking for work. Or even worse, you are employed and you're sitting in this company where you're absolutely unhappy and miserable.
Bored out of your gourd.
This thing that we're talking about isn't just about making a living, but it's about being happy in what you're doing and knowing that you're making a real difference in your own life and in the life of the people that you love. The flexibility that I have right now as somebody that's working in this field is incredible. My daughter is getting ready to be in a Christmas parade today. And from here, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to help with the float. I'm going to do all these things. And this is something that I can do Monday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because I have the flexibility to hit pause on my work and go do something that is a lot more productive towards my family and my happiness. I want our
It's
listeners,
gratifying.
yeah,
Gratifying. You're in the driver's seat, right? You control the major decisions. You decide what kind of work you want to do. And so even myself, while I'm still back to a full-time role, the benefits of having a remote job where I'm getting the experience in the field where I want to work, it does compensate for some of the lack of flexibility I had as just being a freelancer. So you have to find your balance,
mm,
but I think it's about being flexible. I think it's about understanding and staying ahead of the times, though, staying ahead of the curve, constantly building new skills because this stuff is so rapid pace. You've got to jump in head first. I know you're doing a bachelor's degree in this topic, Danny, but as you've said in prior sessions, what we're working on with these challenges, this particular podcast, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of your fellow classmates. You already
and
done
that
assignment.
yeah, and that is something that I want to make sure people grasp. Right, you shifted your career entirely, and you're working at top 5% of your field in 2 years. And in 6 months, I've managed to make a living doing this thing over here. And there is such a gap of knowledge, especially in the 40, 50, 60 year old range, that if you study what we've been talking about for 3, 4, 5 weeks, you have an incredible amount of value to pass over to people that are decision makers and that hold the income to really listen to what you have to say. I
I want to
encourage.
leave the audience with this quote from Jim Carrey that came out a number of years ago, but it really struck a chord with me. And he basically said, if you're not willing to downgrade your lifestyle for a year to have a lifestyle you want forever, you care too much about what other people think. And that is truly the case. For me, it was more than a year, it was 2 years where I did feel like I had to sacrifice, but I was like, look, I do not want to go back to feeling miserable. I want to pursue happiness. I want to pursue greater things that I know I'm capable of. So I applied myself, nose to the grindstone. And to Danny's point, you don't have to take 2 years. You can literally do it in a matter of weeks, a matter of months. A year is more than enough time to upskill yourself and to pivot the direction of your career. I understand people have responsibilities, have kids, etc. But you have to look at the other side of the coin is like, is being miserable truly worth it? You have to somehow find a way to make it work.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Danny, I think we should start really winding things down. But this has been a great session. I think a little off the cuff, a little unscripted, but overall, pretty good stuff.
I think that these sessions are great when we're just kind of going off the cuff because there's a ton of information. I don't want to seem stiff either. I think that content creation it has enough people out there that are going, line by line, and really what I want to be is authentic, and I want to make sure that people understand that we're people, we're real people out here, figuring things out and sharing the information that we know. Yeah.
Sounds good. So, I think for the listeners and the viewers out there, thank you for accompanying us on this journey of being digital pathfinders. There's not a one size fits all approach, it's about learning from others. So, I think looking forward, it would be great to have some guests on the show that
Yeah.
can impart knowledge
Mhm.
individuals that are farther along on their journeys than we are ourselves. So stay tuned. And this is episode 4 of the Digital Pathfinders.
All right,
See
we'll
you
see you
around
next
in the
time.
next one.